Mr. Ambassador, I want to put to you some allegations being made by Russia against Britain by your Security Council chief, Mr. Petrushev. He's claiming UK forces blew up the Nord Stream pipelines. He's claiming UK forces helped carry out an attack on Russian ships in the Black Sea. He is claiming British security services are recruiting members of international terror organizations to fight in Ukraine, and he is claiming Ukraine is working right now on a dirty bomb with Western help. Where is the evidence for any of that?
If I will going to bring you all evidences to all these issues, it will take us more than an hour, I guess. But I will say one thing about the suspension of the grain delivery safe corridor.
Just on these allegations, first of all, where is the evidence?
The evidences are on the participation of British special forces in preparation of the action against Sevastopol fleet has been delivered to British ambassador this morning and to the military attaché of Britain also this morning.
So you've delivered the evidence to
over there, yes,
our ambassador. So why don't you show the world the evidence? Because these are very serious allegations.
Yes.
Why don't you show the world the evidence?
We perfectly know about participation of British specialists in training, preparation and execution of plans against the Russian infrastructure and the Russian fleet in Black Sea. And we know that it has been done. As I said, we do have detailed things which has been delivered. I will say that
but why don't you show the world the evidence?
Let me finish, please. It will come public pretty soon.
You will provide evidence of British involvement in an attack on a Russian ship?
Exactly. It will come public pretty soon, I guess perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow, but we know that it is happening, and it is dangerous because it escalates the situation. It can bring us to the line of, I would say no return. Return is always possible, but anyway, we should avoid escalation, and this is a warning, actually, that Britain is too deep in this conflict. And of course it means that the situation is becoming more and more dangerous.
But Britain is only involved in this conflict because your country invaded a sovereign, independent state and is killing thousands of civilians.
What I can say is, before that, Ukraine, with assistance of Britain and US, for 8 years was killing a number of people in Donbass. For 8 years. Children were grown up during this time under bombing and shelling in it, in spite, and they didn't want to adhere to Minsk Agreements, which were providing safe outcome of this political negotiated Minsk Agreement.
Where's the evidence then that Britain blew up these pipelines?
I didn't say that. It is under investigation, but I can say that for 2 years, British special forces were training Ukrainian special forces in Achakov.
But that doesn't mean they blew up the pipelines.
Procuring them, and they also provided them with underwater drones, also teaching them explosives.
But where's the evidence for this? Why don't you provide the evidence for this? It's very simple. If you've got the evidence, show it.
Well, if you have half an hour, I can read it to you right now, but it is not the case. How did British operators were preparing Ukrainian sea divers that are carrying out explosions over there? Drones has been delivered as well to Ukrainian forces, all that stuff. So it is for the specialists more than for the public.
So on this whole issue of a dirty bomb that the West is supposedly cooperating in, where is the evidence for that? Your spokesman says in Ukrainian laboratories close to our borders, components of biological weapons are being developed involving deadly pathogens, including plague and anthrax. Where is the evidence for that? You invaded the country 8 months ago. You surely must have pictures of that. You must have tried to stop that.
First of all, you have asked me about dirty bomb, then about biological weapon. It's two totally different things. So do not mix it at all. Now, the Ukraine.
But you've made allegations about both. Is my point.
Ukraine has about 6,000 different nuclear points where it can be done. I know that under most suspicion are two. It's institution in Kiev and the other one, which is called Yellow Waters, which is doing it. This month, International Atomic Energy Agency is conducting inspections just to be certain that it does not happen.
And they say they have found nothing.
No, they did not yet.
They have said
They
that
are not
they
yet,
found nothing.
They are not yet over there, so inspections are not yet carried out.
But so far, I mean, this all makes sense only if it is a means to distract from Russia's failing in this war, to distract from Russians' war crimes, the crimes against humanity, and perhaps to pave the way for an escalation. That is the only way these claims.
This is your conclusion. It is not my conclusion. It is just danger we are trying to point out that it might happen. We are not saying that dirty bomb is over there, it's going to explode, but we perfectly are aware that this type of this preparation highly likely are possible. And we just want to attract attention of people to a Security Council, especially for biological weapon, that some investigation needed to be done. We do not want to distract attention. It is we are doing our military people are doing their job over there, and they are gaining terrain.
So just to be clear, you will provide evidence for all these allegations?
No. Evidence has been provided in Security Council over there. It's a specialized body that has been delivered all evidences on the subject of biological.
Why didn't the UN then agree to an inquiry? They haven't agreed to an inquiry.
They did not.
No.
You're right. Security Council, they analyzed it yesterday. Two countries were in favor, Russia and China. Three countries were against, US, France, and Britain. Others abstained. So resolution has not been taken. What we can do?
So Vladimir Putin's spokesman has said there will be reprisals for these things. He says, of course, we will think about further steps. It cannot be left like this. What sort of reprisals are you talking about? Military, diplomatic, economic?
I'm not sure what is the citation of that. What do you mean? Reprisals on what subject? If you are talking about cooperation, underwater cooperation, then we continue to study what has happened under Nord Stream as well. We know that studies has been done by Sweden and Denmark. They did not reveal what is the origin of it and what has happened. Study is now being done by Gazprom.
Well, they certainly haven't said that the UK is responsible for blowing up those pipelines.
If you allow me to finish, I appreciate your next question. Study is continuing what kind of explosion has happened underwater over there. It is too far and too difficult to find out, but as soon as we will find out, of course, we will think about steps.
There's also an allegation that Russia has prevented a terror attack on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. Who would want to do that?
Oh, many, yes. Unfortunately, we have a lot of special operation groups from Ukrainian side of Dnieper River, because it stands on the other side of it, and it is under Russian control. It is being bombed every day by Ukrainians, and it is becoming really dangerous. So what we are trying to do is to invent kind of safety precautions that it is not going to explode. We shall have no other Chernobyl at this place. Of course, it is difficult, but we work together with United Nations on that subject, and we hope to find a solution.
You see, the problem is, how do you expect the world to believe all this unless and until you produce the evidence?
By saying the world, you mean the Western countries. Western countries do not represent the whole world. It is only 20% of economy, population.
You've got to persuade China, and you've got to persuade India that all these things that you are saying is true as well. And that can be done by putting out the evidence, and that we can't see any evidence.
I can easily say that China do not support a version of event, neither India is supporting a version of event, and the majority of the world does not support the Western hypothesis of what is happening in Ukraine. And I would very much advise also to your politicians to look better in what is happening over there, what will be the result of it, and most important, what will be the consequences of this delivery of weapons to Ukraine. Because by this you simply prolong the conflict. You make Ukrainian soldiers die and fight by providing more and more weapons. It is vicious circle, I should say, and politically strategic miscalculation.
But shouldn't Vladimir Putin have thought about that before he decided to invade an independent sovereign country?
We tried to avoid it by all means, and we negotiated it for 8 years, as I say, trying to persuade Ukraine to accept Minsk Agreements, which means peaceful, normal solution. And probably it was a great mistake by Ukrainians to humiliate and kill Russians for
Where there
quite
is
a long
plenty
time.
of evidence, where there is plenty of evidence, is that you are attacking civilian infrastructure and energy infrastructure in Ukraine because you've admitted it. The Defense Ministry has admitted it. Why are you plunging people in Ukraine into darkness? And why are you destroying the water supply of Ukraine?
Wrong. These strikes, which has been executed in the recent years, they mean to strike command and control, communication system, and logistics mostly, and the energy supplies as well. It has to be prevented the movement of troops by railway from the region to region. I will remind you that Americans in this situation, they bombed bridges on Danube River in 1999 in Serbia and destroyed all bridges. We are not doing this.
But that is a different thing to consigning families in residential areas to a winter without power and without water. What are you trying to do? To freeze these civilians to death? What are you trying to do?
This is also wrong, wrong perception, because it is Ukrainian infrastructure, as they are admitting, is destroyed a bit now by 30%. They can reconstruct it by it. It is the energy infrastructure does exist.
But the fact that they can rebuild it doesn't make it right, does it? But
I'm sure
there are long power cuts. There are long power outages.
Yes, but it is still reconstructible. Our cause was to prevent, as I said, and to damage the military infrastructure in the first place, and it has been done.
Isn't the truth that you are not waging a successful war against the Ukrainian military, so you are now waging war on Ukrainian civilians?
Well, when I'm seeing speeches by your Minister of Defense in the Parliament, I sometimes put questions myself whether he is misinformed or he does not really understand the situation. It is for about a month and a half, Ukrainians cannot gain a single piece of terrain over there. They are sitting on their own places without further progressing, and all of that is wrong.
But your own Defense Ministry says in an update on its website, the Russian armed forces continue to launch strikes with high precision, long-range air and sea-based weapons against Ukrainian energy facilities.
Exactly.
It's on the Defense Ministry website.
You have read one explanation, you didn't read yesterday's explanation. I do not want just to repeat it, because where it has been stressed.
But this is taking out power in civilian areas. That is my point. And winter is upon us.
I think we have discussed it already.
But do you not think that is a breach? Is that an breach of international humanitarian law?
Every war is a breach of humanitarian law, but it is still, I can refer you to previous 8 years.
But why are you also waging war then on the poorest in the world by not allowing ready supplies of grain to reach these people, by threatening to withdraw altogether from the grain agreement? Why are you bringing the poorest people in the world into this?
Interesting question. If you will be patient enough, I will answer it to it. By this moment, the delivery of grain, which from the port of Odessa and the others of Ukraine, has been delivered to the European Union 34%, to Turkey 35%, and to the poor world 3 to 4%, no more. It is, of course, wrong delivery, I will say. So the purpose of this grain deal, it is not reached. And as you know, we suspended it for some time. We have got now written guarantees, as we have requested from Ukraine, that they are not going to fight war in the Black Sea. Right. And we continue now the delivery. We facilitate delivery of Ukrainian grain over there.
Right. Will you
At the same time, we have plenty of grain ourselves, and we are trying to deliver it to Africa, to a number of countries over there. Right. But we are still not allowed to do this by sanctions, by Western sanctions.
Will you renew the grain shipment deal, which currently expires in, I think, 2 or 3 weeks' time?
It expires on the 19th of November.
Will you renew
I cannot guarantee, because the second part of the deal about delivery of the Russian grain, and we suggest part of it will be free of charge at all. Still, this second part of deal is not being fulfilled. So our ships cannot bring it to Africa because they are still under British sanctions, European Union sanctions, American sanctions. Nothing what has been promised to us that these sanctions will be relieved, it has not been done.
So you can't guarantee that that deal
I cannot
will be...
guarantee at this moment because negotiations are continuing. UN is participating in it. Secretary General of UN is talking to US, to European Union to facilitate delivery of the Russian grain, which is much more than Ukrainian grain, I would say.
The Kremlin said last night that the world's 5 nuclear powers are on the brink of direct armed conflict. Do you think that is true?
Having read today's newspaper, especially Telegraph, I have seen various hypotheses how we can deliver these nuclear weapons. But at the same time, I bring your attention to another statement.
No, but this was a Kremlin spokesman last night saying...
to the statement that has been agreed by all nuclear states. The nuclear war cannot be won, and it should never be fought. And we stick strongly to this statement. We will not use a nuclear weapon because it is designed for different purposes.
You will not use a nuclear weapon?
No.
What about a tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine? A tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine? Would you ever use a tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine?
Tactical nuclear weapon is not in Ukraine. Tactical nuclear weapon is a different thing.
Yes, I'm saying, would you use one in Ukraine?
It is, well, now the world has got every assurances that Russia is not going to use tactical nuclear weapon in Ukrainian conflict.
That's very interesting. The Kremlin also said the top priority was to avoid such a clash of nuclear powers.
Exactly.
Isn't the best way to avoid that to just remove your troops from Ukraine now? I
hardly imagine that it might happen because we know when we have withdrawn our troops from different regions, from near Kharkov, from Kiev, purges started immediately, and special forces of Ukraine started to find those who were Russian sympathizers, bringing them into prisons, torturing them, and all that stuff. So it is having this experience. Provocations like in Bucha also happen. So we're having this experience. I hardly believe that it can be done, really.
Provocations in Bucha, I mean, we can discuss that if you like, but I mean, there was evidence there and of war crimes against Russian forces.
If you will tell me that there is evidence, we still are waiting a single name that can be named of those who perished over there, or what kind of people.
Well, there are images of men with their arms tied behind their backs who have been shot.
Well, it does not, it does not a long conversation, but still no names were revealed, no single identification has been revealed. Who are these people?
So you still maintain that was staged?
Of course, yes. It was staged very carefully to interrupt peace negotiations in April. We were close at this moment to a certain agreement with Ukrainians. But then some people decided that it should be, talks should be interrupted. And they have staged this thing, and that's all. Since that time, Ukrainian side has said no negotiations. We are going to fight. Give us weapon, we are going to fight it until the end.
But you keep maintaining that these allegations of war crimes and evidence of war crimes have been staged. Do you think that, do you realize how grotesque that sounds to the rest of the world?
No, I answered your question. What else? If you run out of questions, then sorry.
No. What about negotiations? Is there a chance that there could be negotiation to end this?
Yes, I'm sure that it is always a good chance to have a good negotiations with a good will and a realistic understanding of the situation.
So what would be the minimum that Russia would want in those negotiations? Do you still want to keep your troops in Ukraine? Do you still want to keep your troops in Crimea?
You're asking me questions which I cannot answer because negotiations are not in view, and what will be our position and Ukrainian position at these negotiations, it is hard to predict, of course.
Do you think President Putin wants a way out of this war now?
I think yes. I'm sure that we need a certain outcome, negotiated outcome, and we are not hiding away from the negotiations. We just want Ukrainian side, but Ukrainians has now prohibited by law that they're going to participate in negotiations.
The trouble is now that the Ukrainians are making progress on the battlefield.
Oh no,
because Vladimir Putin may be...
As I have said, it's wrong information. They do not make any progress for about a month and a half. They do not move at all. Contrary, our troops are now seizing more and more terrain near Donetsk and Donbass area, which is the most hardest fortress by them. And they are really progressing over there every day.
So is Russia winning this war? Is Russia winning this war?
Well, it has started in order to assist Lugansk and Donetsk in their situation, and we continue to assist and to help these people to survive and to liberate their own territories.
What makes you support President Putin, given that he has invaded a country, an independent country, a sovereign country?
This is a rhetorical question.
It's a
rhetorical question.
I just wonder why you still support that.
Why shouldn't I?
You could say enough is enough.
No,
you could stand up and say.
Actually, I do believe in what we are doing.
You do believe
Yes,
in the invasion
absolutely.
of Ukraine?
I do believe in what we are doing, and I previously explained it to you, what has happened before during 8 years. And actually, as also President Putin explained, we didn't have other way, because Ukraine was making a fortress near our borders and was planning to invade these two republics, and this is nearly 5 million of people at that time, to kill them. What was the idea? They didn't want negotiated settlement, and we finally has come to the situation where it stands. Now it is more and more difficult because with supplies of weapons, with British assistance as in the first place, right after the US, and of course with all this help. And it is really strategic miscalculation because you do not think about the future of Ukraine. What's going to happen next year to them? Economy doesn't work. It's about half of population over there. Men are in the army. Are you going to assist them forever or next year, through the next year?
Doesn't the strategic miscalculation belong to Russia?
No, I don't think so. As I said, it was a necessity. That's the only way out of the situation that has been designed over the year.
So you are proud to represent your current president? And you are proud of what he is doing in Ukraine?
I represent my country, and I represent my president and the Russian government here.
And just a final word, you say President Putin wants to get out of Ukraine now, finish this war now.
Either it is now or not now, I cannot say. I cannot say it for him. He is the supreme commander over there. He is president of our country, and he is, as we have said,
but would that require, in your view, does that require Russian troops, Russian forces to stay in Ukraine and to stay in Crimea?
If we will need to protect the Russian population, which is populating all this area right now, of course we will need that Russian troops to stay over there.
So you would need Russian troops on Ukrainian territory.
Otherwise they will be attacked by Ukrainian forces, and it has happened already at many points. So we do not see other way than to protect them right now.
And if Ukrainians won't accept that, because it is their sovereign country, what happens? There's just a prolonged war? Is a long war,
I can imagine, yes,
better than a bad peace for you?
No, I can imagine that Ukraine simply is going to lose more and more terrain and more resources that it has by now. The potential is incomparable of two countries, and there is no way that Ukraine can win over there. It is just a hypothesis, but it cannot happen in reality. I'm afraid Ukraine is going to fail. At one point, you will stop to support it seriously because you cannot maintain a country that has of this size and magnitude and of this. It's as simple as that. I really feel sorry for these Ukraine people, not the government, because we have differences not
But
with
can
the people
Russia
of Ukraine,
control a
but with
country
the
of that size and population?
I
That
don't
is the
think
real
that we
question.
pretend to control a country of that size, but we can easily control regions where Russian populated regions.
Right. So you don't want to control the whole of Ukraine now?
This is impossible.
You don't want to
No.
remove the government in Ukraine?
No, we are helping all the Russian people that are living over there. Russian and Russian-speaking people who were deprived of their own rights, who were discriminated and killed over there.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.